What's up everyone, Tera Roberts here again, bringing you week 4 of DFS Bargains. We're looking for those great value plays, those budget-friendly guys who are going to help open up salary within your lineup. And let's start off at the quarterback position. Despite the fact that he's had 3 solid weeks in a row to start the season, led his team to 3-0, and is right on the cusp of being a QB1, Sam Darnold is still a bargain at quarterback. He hasn't been extremely flashy, but he's been steady, productive, and he's been able to take advantage of questionable defenses, and he just so happens to be facing one of those in week 4 against the Dallas Cowboys. Last week against Dallas, turnovers aside, Jalen Hurts threw for a whopping 326 yards with 39 attempts and 2 touchdowns. Darnold could finally have that boom game that we've been looking for against Dallas. Moving on to running backs, or should I say running backs, we've got Cordarrelle Patterson. His rush attempts and targets may literally have been the exact same for the past 2 weeks, but he's got that running back designation, so he's a running back, okay? But it's the PPR value that makes Cordarrelle Patterson such a steal at his price this week. He's facing a Washington defense that has had some rougher games over the past couple of weeks, so it could be another big day for Patterson. Moving on to wide receivers, and I for one am thrilled that Brandon Alyuk has finally escaped from the Kyle Shanahan doghouse. Fantastic for my fantasy teams and fantastic for DFS too, because his price is still very reasonable. Yes, it was only 4 receptions on 6 targets, but his snap count jumped up dramatically, and he's facing a Seattle team that just hasn't been particularly good against the pass this season. We know what he's capable of, and if he can hit those Brandon Alyuk 2019 numbers at this week's price, it will pay off big time. Now, for the 3rd week in a row, Emmanuel Sanders has outsnapped Cole Beasley, and it's time that we accept that he technically is the wide receiver 2 in Buffalo's offense. And in week 3, Sanders caught 5 of 6 targets for 94 yards and 2 touchdowns. Fantastic week. And this week, he's facing a Houston defense that is just really struggling to stop the pass. Now, despite the fact that all the big games are being had by Cooper Kupp, there is still value to be had at wide receiver for the Rams, and that value is Van Jefferson. He's basically a big lottery ticket play. He won't see a ton of volume, but he has that big play potential that just can't be ignored. And at his price, if he hits, it's a big time payoff. The Rams play the Cardinals this week, and the third option receivers have been surprisingly decently productive against the Cardinals. Week 1, Chester Rogers. Week 2, KJ Osborne. Week 3, Laviska Shenault technically. So this might set up very well for Van Jefferson. Now, let's wrap things up at receiver with a couple of guys whose value is dependent on injuries. First up, Nick Westbrook-Ikhine. With A.J. Brown down with a hamstring injury, Ikhine has a huge snap count increase. He saw 78% last week and was 4 for 4 with 53 yards and a touchdown. Julio Jones is also dealing with a minor injury, so Ikhine is in a prime position to receive an increase in targets and red zone opportunities as well. Another situation to watch out for is the Giants wide receiver core. Sterling Shepard and Darius Slayton both suffered hamstring injuries, and strangely enough, Collin Johnson, who was waived by the Jags a month ago and landed with the Giants, that Collin Johnson went 5 for 7 for 51 yards. And as of the filming of this video, we don't know the status for Shepard and Slayton, but if they can't go, Collin Johnson is likely the cheapest viable option on the slate. And Daniel Jones really seems to like him. Probably because it's a little hard to overthrow someone who is 6'6". But let's wrap things up at the tight end position. There are several really good options for low-priced tight ends this week. Mike Gesicki, Gerald Everett, Tyler Conklin, all great options that you could go with. But if you're looking for someone who you need to use to get a little bit more unique with your play, look at Dawson Knox. Knox is a player who has a combination of a solid floor, touchdown upside, and a tasty matchup that we talked about earlier against Houston. And he's been quietly finding production, catching a touchdown in each of the last 2 games, and his snap count is on the rise. So that wraps things up for us for this week's DFS Bargains video. Thank you guys for watching. Good luck with your lineups, and I will see you again here next week.